an Inspector Price mystery. The sleeper train waited beneath a pale winter sky, its dark carriages breathing slow clouds of steam, like a resting animal. Inspector Harold Price arrived without ceremony. He carried a single leather case and wore a plain charcoal overcoat. His bowler pulled low against the chill. To the casual observer, he was merely another English civil servant crossing post-war Europe. But Price had long since learned that appearances were rarely reliable. Prague's main station hummed quietly around him. Porters hurried past with trunks. A family embraced near the ticket windows. Somewhere down the platform, a whistle sounded. Price consulted his watch. He'd been instructed to travel discreetly. Officially, he was bound for consultations in London. Unofficially, Scotland Yard had grown uneasy about a Czech engineer scheduled to arrive with sensitive industrial schematics, documents tied to unexplained factory failures across Eastern Europe. Rumours of espionage drifted through diplomatic channels. Price preferred facts. He stepped aboard. The corridor smelled faintly of coal and polish. Inside his compartment, he placed his case carefully, smoothed his coat, and returned to the passageway. He always liked to see his fellow passengers early. 2 doors down stood a slim man in his 40s, spectacles perched precariously on his nose, clutching a worn leather briefcase to his chest. Beside him hovered a young woman, dark-haired and anxious, her gloved hands twisting together. His assistant. Further along, a sharply dressed American woman supervised a porter with military efficiency. At the far end of the corridor, a German officer smoked thoughtfully by an open window. And emerging from the dining carriage came a tall Englishman with a notebook already in hand. Charles Whitcomb. "Evening," Whitcomb said pleasantly, as Price passed. "So it seems," Price replied. Whitcomb introduced himself as a journalist covering European reconstruction. Price noted the ease of the smile and moved on. He observed everything. Who avoided eye contact, who lingered too long in doorways, who carried more luggage than necessary. Only Kovars appeared genuinely afraid. At precisely 8 o'clock, the train began to move. Prague slipped quietly into darkness. Dinner was served shortly after departure. The dining carriage glowed warmly, brass fixtures reflecting soft lamplight. Conversation drifted easily at first. Rail schedules, hotel shortages, the stubbornness of customs officials. Then Whitcomb produced a silver flask. "Brandy from Bordeaux," he announced cheerfully. "A little tradition of mine on overnight journeys." He poured generously. Some declined, some accepted. "Just a taste, Doctor," Whitcomb said, "to Europe's future." After a moment, Kovars raised his glass. Price watched carefully. They spoke of harmless things. Whitcomb steered conversation toward industrial recovery, supply chains, factory logistics. Kovars answered cautiously. He drank only half his brandy. Later he excused himself early, murmuring something about fatigue. Within hours he would be dead. Inspector Price woke to shouting. The conductor stood pale in the corridor. Price followed him quickly. Kovars lay collapsed across his bunk, sweat glistening on his forehead, his breathing shallow and erratic. The train physician worked urgently, but the engineer's pulse faltered, then stopped. There were no signs of struggle, no overturned luggage, only a faint, bitter scent on his lips, and a glass recently rinsed in his wash basin. Price ordered the compartment sealed. Espionage was immediately suggested. Foreign intelligence, political rivalry. Price said nothing. He searched quietly. Inside Kovars' shaving kit, hidden beneath the lining, he found folded currency, British pounds, Swiss francs, French notes. Not a tourist's money, emergency money, defection money. Kovars had not been fleeing his country. He had been preparing to expose something. As the train thundered westward, Price conducted discreet interviews. Kovars' assistant revealed weeks of paranoia. The American trade representative confirmed he'd been investigating industrial manipulation. The German officer suspected intelligence involvement. Whitcomb presented himself as merely a reporter chasing a tragic story. But Price had seen reporters before. They asked questions. They did not guide conversations. Whitcomb had. Inside Kovar's notebook, Price discovered columns of numbers that were not calculations at all. They were codes, shipment dates, factory identifiers, material substitutions, deliberate industrial sabotage. Czech facilities weakened from within, while Western firms quietly gained contracts. This was not political espionage, it was economic warfare. And someone on this train had known Kovar's intended to reveal it. The poison was slow-acting, tasteless in alcohol, designed to delay symptoms until long after suspicion had faded. Only one moment fit the timeline: the shared brandy. Price reconstructed the evening carefully. Whitcomb had poured every glass himself. By the time the train reached France, Price had broken the cipher and traced financial connections linking Whitcomb to the very companies that benefited from Kovar's silence. The journalist was no journalist at all. He was a British industrialist. When confronted, Whitcomb did not deny it. "You think industry rebuilds itself on sentiment?" he said quietly. "The man would have collapsed markets." "You poisoned him," Price replied. "I removed an obstacle." Business interests had trumped a man's life. As London approached, Inspector Price gathered the remaining passengers. "This was not a political assassination," he told them calmly. "It was a commercial one. Kovar had tried to expose corruption. Someone had ensured he never reached England. And while contracts would reshuffle and boards would appoint new directors, one engineer who believed truth should matter now lay silent in a foreign carriage." Price closed his notebook. Crimes had evolved, once men killed for crowns, then for flags,